What is going on, you guys? It's your girl Diana, back at you with another YouTube video. Recently, I made a video on what I as a player wanted to see in the future DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I have to say, in the past few days, I have gone down a rabbit hole, and I am now convinced that we are about to get an extension of the Kalos region as part of the upcoming DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, I will say that none of this is confirmed, and this is all 1000% just conspiracy theories, but I wanted to share all of the evidence that points towards us getting Kalos in the upcoming DLC. So if you would like to go down this rabbit hole with me, then just keep on watching and make sure that you subscribe so that you're always up to date with the latest Pokemon news, and give this video a thumbs up so that we can push it out into the YouTube algorithm so that more people can comment their theories about what the upcoming DLC might be. And if you would like another way to support the channel, please feel free to check out the merch store. There is a link down below in the description that takes you to not only my merch store, but also all of my other socials so you can keep up with what I'm doing on a daily basis. And since the holidays are right around the corner, if you are still looking for a copy of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for yourself or for a loved one, I have linked them down below in my Amazon storefront. But let's go ahead and hop into all of the evidence that points towards us returning to Kalos. So one of the most obvious hints that we have that we might be getting a Kalos DLC has to do with your map. If you open up your map, you'll see this area that's kind of over by the Watchtower in North Province Area 1 is kind of like lined out, grayed out, however you want to say it, and there is a clear defining border that shows that you literally cannot go here. It's very similar to the pattern that you see here in Area 0, which you could not go to Area 0 until you finish the game, which this also leads me to believe that we might be getting a DLC for Area 0 as well. Probably going to be something like they did for Sword and Shield, where we got the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. But if I try to scale that wall in front of me, I literally can't. Normally, if you run at a wall, hello to all the adorable little Drifloons and Drifblims, normally you can climb a wall quite easily, just like that. But the second that I try to climb this wall in the grayed out area, I can't, I just fall. You can go in the water, but the second that you try to scale this wall, you can't go there. And the water also stops at a certain point as well. So clearly, there is something on the map that we can't see yet and we can't go to yet. They obviously put it there for a reason, and they obviously made it plain as day for a reason. This isn't just supposed to be a border, because you can clearly see the border of where the ocean stops for the game. And there is not a border in front of this part of the map. So eventually we should be able to swim here, because otherwise it would be blocked off like this border that literally I can't go past this point. The next piece of evidence that we have that points towards Kalos being the DLC is actually in the exact same spot that I just was, over by the Watchtower, and it has to do with the 3 dragon type trainers that are just chilling here. These 3 girls all have dragons that are from the Kalos region. So if I interact with the girl that is literally right at the Watchtower that's a fast travel point, she has a Noivern. Let me go ahead and get rid of this Noivern real quick, and I'll show you the other 2 girls. And if I hop over to the other Watchtower, there is 3 little Watchtowers here. We'll see another dragon trainer, and she's also gonna have a Kalos dragon. So this girl here has a Dragogi. Dragogi, it has been nice knowing you. Thank you for your time and helping me prove my point here. And the last dragon trainer that you can interact with has a Goodra, one of my favorites. So what are the odds that these 3 dragon trainers all have Kalos dragons? And right next to where we're supposed to get a DLC that is suspiciously shaped like part of the Kalos region, and technically makes sense geographically because the Paldea region is supposed to be based off of Spain, and the Kalos region is based off of France, which Spain borders France. So I don't know about you, but some things are making a little too much sense so far, but let's continue. Now let me tell you, this little area right here that we're in has a lot of evidence in it actually. So not only do we have the 3 dragon type trainers here that all have Kalos dragons, but in addition, there's actually a lot of Kalos Pokemon that spawn in this area. Exhibit A, Hawlucha here, that is literally gonna attack me right now. And if you come over this way and you run up the path that actually leads you to this little Watchtower area, not only are you gonna see more Hawluchas, but, oh, there's one right there that I almost ran into, but we're also gonna get Noibats and Noivern spawning. So we also have native Kalos Pokemon spawning in this area. There's one right there. We have a little Noibat for us. So just in this one area, this area over here in North Province Area 1, not only do we have a DLC area clearly marked out that just happens to be on the border of Paldea, which technically is based off of Spain, which also borders France, which is what Kalos is based off of. We also have 3 dragon-type trainers that all have Kalos dragons, and in North Province Area 1, we find Kalos Pokemon spawning in the wild. So we already have 3 big pieces of evidence that point towards us possibly getting a Kalos DLC. Our next piece of evidence is actually at the Academy. If you go to the library, you can read either the Violet book or the Scarlet book, depending on which game you have, obviously. And if you read this page over here, it says a disc Pokemon, and obviously the words are blocked out, but you can kind of make out what it says. So it says a disc Pokemon. While separated from the research team in the crater's depths, I found a strange entity. Whether it was a Pokemon or even alive at all, I know not. It bore a shell with layers of overlapping hexagons and gleaming brighter still than gemstone. Viewed as a whole, it resembled a mysterious, brilliant disc. And the connection that people are drawing here is to Zygarde, since Zygarde, of course, has hexagons all over its body and has different forms. And if you look closely at the drawing of this disc Pokemon, you can kind of make out what looks like a serpent-like head on the left-hand side. So these similarities seem to think that this disc Pokemon might be another form of Zygarde, which is of course from the Kalos region as well. Other evidence of this disc-like being actually being a Pokemon, and a legendary at that, can actually be found in Area 0. If you read the journals down here, this is in Research Station number 1, it says we've determined that this energy crystallization is linked to the being we call Blank, so the name is blanked out. The interlocking hexagonal plates that comprise Blank's shell must somehow cause this phenomenon, which I've dubbed terastallizing. So clearly, this hexagonal being is indeed a Pokemon and is what gives the terastall phenomenon its power, and is most likely linked to the little hats that the Pokemon wear, which if you look up close to them, you'll see a little set of eyes in the middle of the crown, which is also shaped like a hexagon. And so where people keep drawing this connection to Zygarde is that Zygarde, obviously its big signature thing is that it has a hexagon pattern all over its body. Although this may be one of the weaker points of evidence in all of the theories that I have come across myself. And the last point that I wanted to touch on was something that I noticed that I feel like a lot of people are not really bringing up, at least not that I know of. I kind of had to dig for it here on Twitter, is that the fact that the Kalos starters are returning to Pokemon, which they haven't been in Pokemon since Gen 7, which was years ago at this point, which obviously everyone is like elated that Greninja will be making its return. But what are the odds that the Kalos starters are coming back when we have a lot of evidence pointing towards us getting a Kalos DLC? And not that the Kalos starters are going to be spawning in Paldea per se. They are part of the transfer-only Pokemon that will be available once there's Pokemon Home compatibility in spring of 2023. But I find the timing a little bit suspicious, just because looking back at everything we've touched on, we have a clear marking of where we'll have a DLC. We have Kalos Pokemon spawning near the DLC area. We have dragon trainers only using Kalos dragons, and geographically it makes sense. We do have a little bit of the more out there theory as well, with the third disc Pokemon being our third legendary and also being connected to Zygarde, but I tend to stray away from that theory a little bit because, like I said earlier, that one does seem a little bit far-fetched. But to me, this sounds like it might actually be a pretty strong possibility of us actually getting a Kalos DLC. Like I said, however, this is all 100% speculation, my opinion, and just theories that people are coming up with based off of all of the little Easter eggs that have been popping up throughout the game. Personally, I think it would be kind of cool if they did add a Kalos DLC. However, I'm also of the opinion that that may be a stretch because they haven't pulled off anything like that since the Johto days when you were able to go back into the Kanto region. So us getting a whole other region does seem a little bit far-fetched to me. However, it is possible that maybe we're just getting a small portion of the Kalos region, or maybe it's just going to end up being other unexplored regions of Paldea that are similar to the Sword and Shield DLC with the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I would love to hear your theories and your thoughts on what we're gonna get out of the upcoming DLC. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys.